This is Christine Brown, but she prefers Teeny. I love the name Teeny. And her daughter Priscilla Hill. They're going to be sharing some of their memories of Lubeck with us today. And Christine, do you mind if I mention your age?
No.
Good for you. Christine is 97 years old.
No, she'll be 99 in June.
Excuse me.
Wow. We should all be selected.
So she'll be 99 in June. And so obviously she has a lot of stories and memories to tell us. We're so glad that she was able to be here with us today.
I was born in Lubeck. My family moved to North Lubeck. They moved back to Lubeck on my 7th birthday. I came from a large family. There was 12 of us. I had a twin sister, Catherine. Then they moved to Lubeck and we lived on Eureka Street. And I had a wonderful parents, both, mother and father. They were wonderful. They never raised their voice, but when they spoke to us, we listened and did what we were told. Growing up, it was a wonderful time in Lubeck. Lubeck had 4 doctors, Dr. Mullen, Dr. Evan Bennett, Dr. Gruben, and Dr. Payson. We had a hospital. And for entertainment, my family, we weren't allowed to go what we call downtown Water Street. We stayed around our neighborhood. And Lubeck had a curfew. No child under 16 was supposed to be on the street after 9 o'clock. And it was enforced by our policeman, John L. McCurdy. Anybody remember him? No, I know you. And he lived right in back of us, right in back of our home. He was a big man. When he walked, he always walked with his arms behind him. And when we saw John L., we calmed down. So there was a bunch of us kids living around the neighborhood. During summer vacation, we'd play ball. There was a big opening around our house, and we'd all get together and play ball. Then, of course, other times we'd do other things, go down the beach behind Booth. There's a beautiful beach down there, and we spent most of our time down there too. But one day, there was the lady, there were 2 houses built, one next to ours, another across from us, and we weren't allowed to play ball because it was too close. So we went down what we call under the hill, and we started playing down there, but there was one lady called John L. McCarty on us. We were making too much noise, and we all ran and hid. We saw him coming. And that was for our activity during the summer when we were not quite teenagers. But then, during my teen years, I spent most of it, I went to work in the factory during the summer when I was 13. I wasn't allowed to do it. But my mother, the boss of the factory, went to him and asked him if I could work during the summer. He said I could, but if there was an inspector coming, I'd have to leave. I'd have to hide. But I got by. But the next year, they passed a law that nobody under, I think 16 was allowed to work around the factories or anything. I'm quite sure. So I went carting during the summertime at Seaboard Factory, because there were a lot of factories in town then, and the town was really booming, and everybody was working. But then during the Depression, the factories wouldn't stay open during the winter time. They closed around October. But my father was the boss. Well, he took care of caretaker of Redcliffe Pipes, smoke herring business. My father worked for him. So it didn't hurt us too much. I can't remember my oldest sisters and brothers living with us. I don't know what they did. I know what they did because I was told, but I can't remember them living with us growing up.
I was 12.
And but I can remember my oldest 15-year-old brother, and from that down we were really close family.
Tell them how big your house was.
It was 3 rooms downstairs and 3 up.
You got to remember there were still many kids
But
in
there
this
was only
house.
5 of us. There was, what, 5, 6, 7?
What about when you went to school?
Huh?
What did you wear when you went to school back then, way back then?
I don't know. My mother made my clothes.
And she told us she had 1 pair of shoes for school.
Yeah. So
And that's
we
all.
weren't poor, but we weren't rich either. My mother would, at night, she would bake cookies, or she'd fry donuts, or and she knit. In the summertime, my mother and father, they would buy flour. I had lard. Crisco wasn't known then. And they would, in the summertime, when the peddlers, the gardeners from Charlotte, Pembroke come around with their potatoes and all that thing, my mother would buy from them carrots, potatoes, apples, blueberries, whatever she wanted. And then she would can. And we would go, my sisters, my 2 sisters, and friends that I'd come around with, girlfriends and friends, we would walk to West Lubeck and go strawberrying. And then my mother would make strawberry jam and things like that. We had a wonderful growing up, wonderful, happy. On Sundays, when it come to Sunday, we went to church in the morning, and then we went at night. My father and my mother, well, I don't know how to explain it. They didn't really make us go, that we just went, that was the way that we family was growing up. And the Sunday school would have picnics for us, classes, different classes. We'd have picnics. And then we would have plays. Each class would have a play, and we would entertain during the week with our plays that we had. It was really, beautiful. I loved it. And I don't know. I just can't explain it. It was a beautiful way, altogether different from even when my daughter was growing up. And I don't know, I don't want to repeat myself, but there was a curfew, I did, didn't I, that you had to be off the street. But we weren't allowed to go down the street. And during my teenage years when I was going to high school, I wasn't allowed to go to public dances. I could go to the school time. The public dances was out. And, but it didn't bother us. We never made a time over it. And we had other enjoyments. We had our friends at home and like that, and
Roller skating. Tell them.
roller skating.
Tell them where that was.
That was down on just before you get to the Booth Wharf, where the restaurant is today. And we'd go roller skating on Friday nights and Saturday nights. They had roller skating on Wednesday night. That was the school night. We weren't allowed.
Are you talking about that steep hill that goes down? My gosh, did anyone ever get hurt? That's a very steep hill there.
The roller skating rink was across the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where those three new houses are,
Okay. I didn't.
there was a roller skating rink.
Okay.
And that, it was
roller skated down that hill.
It was a warehouse for the American can. With,
That's why you were in county.
it was warehouse for Ramsdale's factory. That was down on, And then when they went out of business, the American Can took it over for a warehouse. And then Clem Brown owned it, and he rented it out to them. Then he turned it into a roller skating rink. And it would be Wednesday night, Friday, and Saturday night from 7 to 9. Because we had to be off the street at 9 o'clock unless you had an older person with you. And John L. McCurdy really.
You seem to really have a lot of memories.
Didn't people come from Eastport to go?
All the people come from Eastport roller skating. And then when they started to build Quaney, there was people moving into Lubeck. Quite a few families moved into Lubeck. And the American Can would work double shift during the summer and fall. And the factories, they stayed open most of the winter, but not all winter. And the town was really booming.
Do you remember how many factories when you were
There
way
was
back then?
7 factories, and they're all going. Everybody was working.
And how did your brother come from Boston?
Oh, my brother came from, my oldest brother, he went to high school in Lubeck, and when he went, in the wintertime, we lived north of Lubeck. They told my mother, that he walked across the ice from Lubeck, from North Lubeck to high school. And he walked from North Lubeck to Lubeck to go to high school. He went as far as his junior year, and then him and 3 or 4 other fellows moved to Boston, and he studied to be an undertaker in Boston.
But how did they get back and forth?
And coming home, they come home on the Governor Dingley, a big steamship. There was two, Governor Dingley and Calvin Austin. He came on the Calvin Austin. And the Governor Dingley, I think they come every 2 weeks, one or the other, come from Boston. And then the ferry that we had in Lubeck, it would go to Eastport, North Lubeck, and Lubeck. When I was a teenager, we would go to Eastport a lot to do our shopping, to find tin. But Lubeck had a store from where the Fisherman's Monument is. On both sides of the street were stores. There was Mr. Baker had a store, Pike store, Mulholland store, Dodge store, one bakery, 2 drugstores, and then there was a confectionery store, that's ice cream pile and all that. Everybody was happy. Everybody attended church when it came on Sunday. The church would be full, morning and night. It was a wonderful time. I grew up.
I can't imagine seeing through her eyes all the changes that have happened since 1919 to now. It's unbelievable.
No.
It started to change, I would say, in about, as far as the Depression going, I know in school we learned about the Depression and about people committing suicide, stockbrokers and all that. But as my family, we didn't even know there was a Depression because we were living all that way anyway.
If it wasn't for the paper, you would never know.
Right, yeah. Don't read the paper.
There wasn't no change.
Grammy, how many schools did there used to be?
How many what, Dale?
Schools.
How many schools?
There was a school, 2 in North Lubeck, which I started the 1st grade, and I walked. I had a twin sister, but my mother kept her home because my mother claimed that she wasn't ready for school, but I was. I was one of the family that, odd one, I guess. And I walked from Lawrence's store to down where Vern Miller used to live. Would it be a half a mile?
About that, yeah.
Not quite half a mile.
How many in West Lubeck, do you remember?
2 in West Lubeck. No, 1 in West Lubeck. 2 in South Lubeck, 2 in North Lubeck, and 1 in West. Well, the others went to East Green
Mm-hmm.
School, grammar, elementary school. And so, if there's any questions,
What were the winters like?
What was the winters like, Mama?
cold.
Wow. Well, if you could walk across that bay to North Lubeck
And we didn't have the clothes. You know what I mean? Like they did today, the snow pants. We didn't have but we had what they call underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Drawers.
Yep.
And my mother always made us wear them. Well, we had to keep on.
So what did you do in the winter for fun?
Oh, we'd go out and make snowballs and play cowboy and Indians. And
So the town was just as busy in the
town
winter?
was just as busy. And we'd go sliding down the hill, and we'd go down my lane where I lived, and we'd keep on going down to the Camp Plant Road that way. Then we, the streets. They had one street closed off that you could go sliding
How'd
and
they,
skating.
did they have a truck to plow it with? The
No.
streets? What'd they plow them with?
I can't remember.
Roger?
They shovel a lot of them.
They shoveled a lot of
Some,
them?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And then sometimes they had a horse.
Is that?
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shoveled a lot of them. Yep, some of them.
Huh.
Could you talk about Thanksgiving, Christmas?
Oh, Thanksgiving and Christmas. My mother would go all out. We'd have all the fixings, everything at Thanksgiving.
What was that? The food and how was it fixed? And
Yeah, what did you have for Thanksgiving dinner? Did you have turkey?
Oh, no, we had chicken.
Big chicken.
We had 2 chickens. We didn't have turkeys until later. But we always had what? Our mother always, I don't know how she did it, because her mother died when she was 12 years old. She brought up 2 sisters and 1 brother. And she went to school which she called the 4th reader. They weren't graded. They went by readers. And she went far as the 4th reader. And I often wondered how my mother and father ever did what they did with the schooling that they had. My mother came from Granite Stream. My father came from Back Bay, New Brunswick. And he worked he was the boss of Radcliffe Pike smoke herring business. And then he became the boss of Mose Pike's factory in Eastport. And then he became the boss of Booth factory. And he worked there. He was working there when he passed away. And he passed away at 86. So we had a wonderful life. Wonderful.
He wasn't on that boat that used to run the rum around back and forth, was he?
She's telling secrets. Bring that up.
Well, we girls, if we saw a dinghy on the beach, down booze, if my mother and father ever knew it, we'd go take it. And we'd go out rowing
The dinghy. She's getting.
in a dinghy. And we'd ride the waves. And we'd ride underneath the mountain can. Underneath the mountain can, we'd go right rowing that would row. And when we got through, we'd take the dinghy and put it back where it was, and yours where it was.
No one's the wiser.
Nobody. And then I'll remind me, we were playing, did you ever know the whip? Did you ever play whip?
Yeah, on skate,
Did you?
cracking the whip, yes.
Well, we were down the Merton Can Road one night, bunch of us, about 10 girls and boys. We were going to play whip. I was on the end of it once.
Oh,
When they let me go, I hit a window in a building and I broke it. So we all took to running. And we didn't dare to say anything. And I'll remember it, I'll never forget it. I was in the 6th grade of school. And I worried all day long, afraid John L. would have
there somewhere.
John L. would have picked for breaking the window. But we never said a word, none of us. We never even told our mothers.
Some things
Did
never change.
Lubeck have a lumber mill?
Yeah, Colton's Lumber Mill down Brownville.
Most of them must have worked in the factories.
Yeah,
That was more or less what it
Yeah.
was.
But it was a wonderful, booming town. Everybody was happy. Everybody was fixing their homes up. And it was just one wonderful, I can't explain it. It was just like one big family.
Did you ever travel? Did you ever leave Lubeck for any length of time?
Did you ever travel anywhere when you were young back
No.
then?
No.
That man over there, Mama.
Yeah, 3 questions. Did you have electricity?
Oh, yeah. We had electricity and we had water.
And did you have telephone?
In one part of the town, we didn't have electricity and water up Nusslewick. I know that, because I can remember. But when we moved to Lubeck, we had water and electricity. But there were houses around us that didn't. They had a faucet. Well, I'd say down under the hill where I lived. So the houses around there would get their water from that. But my father had water put in the house before we moved in. There was none before that. It was a new home. Clem Brown was the owner, and he built 3 houses in a row. And my father rented from him. But my father put the water in our house. So,
Were there telephones?
Did you ever?
Telephones?
no.
And how did you heat the house? How did you heat the houses?
How did you heat
The
it?
heat.
But coal and wood.
Coal and wood.
Coal and wood.
Was the coal brought on boats here?
4 master vessels. There was the Lucy Evelyn and the Rebecca Douglas. It was the Lucy Evelyn that had, they used to be out in the harbor, but one weekend, I guess they put the ship up at the American Can by Wharf. My girlfriend and I was walking by one Sunday, and she said, "Let's go aboard it."
Oh, yeah.
So I said, "Okay." So we went down the steps through the thing, the American Can, to the wall, and we were climbing up the, what would you call it on the vessel?
Ladder.
The ladder, the gangplank, the rung?
We started climbing. Her on one, me on the other. Then we heard this hollering. Get down from there. What's the matter with you?
You climbed in the rigging?
Rigging.
Rigging.
You're in the ratlines.
Her and I was climbing the rigging.
And how old were you when you did that?
Huh?
How old were you?
Oh, I might have been 17.
Climbing the rigging.
16 or 17 around now. We heard this, get down there, get down out of there. It was my father and her father.
That's even worse than John McCurdy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And all my father said to me was, "Land the living.
That's what he said.
What was you doing up there? What did you go up there for?" I said, "Well, we just thought we'd do it. You know you'd fall down and get hurt?" I said, "Well, we never thought of it. We didn't." We do little things like that.
Christine,
We always found something to do.
Marge, gonna ask
do you remember the Rebecca Douglas sailing vessel?
the Rebecca Douglas.
I was aboard it.
Captain Wasson,
Rebecca Douglas.
Harold and Ruth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because the story that Ruth told me was that she was in the old high school, and she kept the yellow high school where the gray apartments are.
Mhm.
She kept looking out the window at the Rebecca Douglas, because it was moored right there in Johnson's Bay. And the teacher yelled at her and said, "Ruth, you're paying more attention to that boat than you are me. You might as well get your coat and go." Well, she did. She was a lot like you. She said what it was. So she got her coat and she went down to the Rebecca Douglas, and they rowed ashore and picked her up. And later, she married Harold Wasson, the
right.
captain. And she
Well,
and
we
her-
used to roll all around those vessels. When we were in the dinghy, we were Rebecca
She must have been
Douglas
out rowing
and
around
Lucy Evelyn.
when you were in the Lucy Evelyn, but she rode out, and she and Harold eventually got married, and Harold and Lester and she took that four-masted schooner to Boston with Laugh, which they picked up at the Whiting, behind the Whiting store in the river,
Yeah,
took it full of Laugh to New York and came back with coal. And I think she did it 3 times, and then that was
Yeah.
enough. So were you anywhere in class? She was younger than you, right?
yes, I was. Yeah,
She was younger than you.
she was 1 year younger than
Was
me.
she?
They condemned that high school the year Mama graduated.
1934.
34. They condemned
They-
it when you went
they
in.
condemned
I was 38.
And
But
then they rebuilt the yellow one?
No, they didn't rebuild it.
Oh, where was it?
Out where the gray apartments are.
But I remember substitute teaching in the yellow one.
Yeah.
And I didn't get here till the 70s.
I graduated from the yellow one.
Me too.
Right, yeah.
So they condemned it, but they didn't tear it down.
Oh, no. No, they didn't. They should have.
So, yeah.
Cold in there.
Yeah.
you went to high school, the old one,
I went, yeah, the yellow
the
one.
one I did.
Yes. Yes.
How many kids were in that high school?
How many kids were in your class?
In high school, when we were freshmen, there was 50 freshmen. 38 graduated. And there were so many freshmen that the freshmen, some of us had to go to a different room instead of the freshman room. And I had to be in the senior classroom. There was 3 or 4, well, there was 3 of us went in the senior room and some in the, that way. Yeah, there was 50 when we started.
But you worked from the time you were 13. You were working at
You were
13?
working.
When you were
You,
13?
you started working when you were 13.
Yeah, I started working, I was 13 in the sardine factory.
And then what, when you got out of high school, what'd you do?
Oh, I went to work for Basil Miller, and he had a confectionery store, and he was a florist. And I worked there for 2 years. And the reason why I left, you won't believe it.
Maybe we would.
I worked 5 days a week. I went to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we stayed open on Friday and Saturday nights till 10 o'clock. And I got $5
A week?
A week?
a week.
Oh my goodness.
But you can imagine back then what $5 would be.
She must not have thought it was much when she got done.
And then a selectman of the town by the name of Miss Irv Case passed away. So we were making sprays and wreaths for. So I worked until midnight that night, and he gave me $2 extra that week. And why I quit, they were working in the factory and making, at that time, $35 a week. Some were making probably less, some were making more, but generally that was around. So I quit and went in the factory. I packed at Seaboard 1 year, and I gave that up, and the next time I went cottoning instead of packing. And I did that during the summer, when they in winter. And then when I got married, I didn't work in the factories.
What do you mean by cartoning? Some of them might not understand.
Don't know what kind of. Well,
Some might not.
Yeah.
they had little boxes, and you took the cans and the keys and put them in. Then you packed them in cases. And I loved to do that, so I went cottoning instead of packing. And then I never went back to sardine packing until, well, she might have been, what?
I
I
don't know.
had a babysitter.
Oh,
Oh,
I was probably what?
she might have been
8?
10. I had a babysitter, her and Wanda. I have a daughter, Wanda.
But not that one. That's my daughter.
That's my granddaughter, Wanda.
We have 5 generations now.
And so I can't think of anything else, but
Didn't
they
I pack
was.
with you 1 year, Grammy? I packed one summer with you, didn't I?
She
Yes, you
packed.
did.
That's what you and Grammy were wrong too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, you did.
I
Down
hated
the
it.
booze.
I did not like packing fish.
Down the booze.
Interesting as everything else
My
was.
father
How about
was the
courtship?
boss.
As interesting as everything else was, did you have any memories of your courtship that were exciting?
I can't.
Do you
think-
have any memories of courtship with somebody that was exciting?
Well, your dad.
That you care to share.
I hate to repeat it. I met him roller skating. That's where I met my first husband, roller skating.
When you went roller skating, how much did you pay to go there?
25 cents.
25 cents to go roller skating. They won't give me anything today.
Yeah.
Were the movies 25 cents too?
The movies. Oh, when we weren't just little, so that we could go to the movies, we'd go to the movies matinee, 10 cents.
Where was the movie hall then? Was it down where it was when I remember?
Yeah. Down by Peacock's, the other
Yeah.
side of Peacock's, movie hall. And I think when we first went there, they were silent.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
quite sure. And there was a lady by the name of Mrs. Bagley played the piano during the movies. Did you hear about that?
No, never did. Just before my time.
No, but I thought somebody might have told.
No, never heard of it.
Yeah. And 10 cents. So we were allowed to go to the movies and back home.
So, do you remember how World War II affected the town? What some of the changes were, or things that happened as a result of that?
The war, it did about, it took about all the boys that were of age, that took them. And it was very quiet. We were rationed. We were only allowed so much gasoline and so much meat and so much sugar, and we had a booklet with so much that we could get.
Rate stamps.
And each member of the family got one. So during the war, I went back home. I was married, but I went back home. I didn't have any children, so I went back home to stay with my parents. And we had, each one of us had. And then at night, you were supposed to pull your blinds down and keep everything dark. I remember that. Sugar was hard to buy. During my teenage years again, President Roosevelt used to come to Lubeck when he came to Campobello, and he would stop in Lubeck and give a speech, and then you would meet his family. His wife would come over to Lubeck to shop. I did get to see President Roosevelt twice.
Was the railroad spur that came down here?
Was there a railroad that came into Lubeck?
Not in Lubeck, it came to Eastport.
Oh, in Eastport.
Yeah, came through Dennisville, came to Eastport. Then the ferry from Eastport would come to Lubeck. I think it made 2 trips in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. The ferry did. And we used to go to Eastport shopping when we were teenagers. It was 25 cents a trip. So we used to go for that shopping.
Did you take the ferry to Eastport for entertainment or events?
Did you take the ferry to Eastport for entertainment or anything?
For sure.
Me, Joan.
Plenty to do here at that time.
She was keeping John L. McCurdy busy.
Do you remember any particularly exciting or bad storms or anything like that?
Exciting or bad storms back when you were younger? Bad ones? Or were they all that way?
No, they were bad storms, lightning storms. They were. But it was awful cold in the winter.
Did you get a lot of snow?
And a lot of snow. A lot of snow. I can't remember anything else.
Okay. If anybody has any questions to ask her.
Did you ever go over to Campobello at all? Just to take it?
Did you go over to Campobello at all when you were younger?
No. No.
No, because back then it would have to have been in a boat, right?
Right.
That's,
You didn't roll over in the dinghy?
well, we never thought of it.
Please don't give her any ideas.
Oh, I don't know. You don't want to go rowing in a dinghy right now.
It was fun.
What about the 4th of July when you were young?
What was the population?
4th of July, Mama.
4th of July, it was great. There would be floats upon floats. Everything. And for fireworks, they didn't have any. Your parents bought what they wanted. My father used to buy fireworks for us. And at Christmas time, my mother, she'd decorate beautiful. Then Mr. Ramsey, we used to call him, he was a tall man, but we used to call him Shotty. He lived across from the town office where that beautiful home is. And there were 2 big trees, and he would decorate them every Christmas. Then he would deliver a box of homemade Christmas candy and an orange for every kid that wanted to go and get one. That was fun.
So what did Santa bring you back way back then? Way back.
A pair of mittens, a game, a book. We loved to read. We
long
spent a lot
underwear.
of time reading. And that's what we'd get for Christmas.
Did you have a potbelly stove that you in the house somewhere?
What did Grampy heat with? Was it a potbelly stove? It wasn't, was it? Grammy had the old-fashioned stove in the house. Well, I call it old-fashioned.
We burnt wood in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the living room, we burnt coal. And we did have a pot-belly stove. It was, I don't know, 3 something. And then my father bought a new stove, coal stove. It was covered over with, it was a fancy little stove. And it was the South feeder. But that was during the war. That wasn't when I was a kid. That was during the war. And I used to attend it because my father was working for Moe's Pipe in Eastbourne. He traveled back and forth.
Oh.
And I went to stay with my mother.
Do you remember what the population might have been way, way back? Just a guess, Mom. You don't have to.
4,000.
4,000.
Oh.
It was a good town, from what I hear from her.
Now, when all the factories were working.
They was the other side of Pike's store, Harold Pike. There was what they called a 5 and 10, and it was a man from Eastport. They called him Red Eye Bishop, and he set up a 5 and 10 cent store. But he didn't keep it here very long. Then he moved back. I was, but there was a lot of stuff on both. And Saturday nights, during my teenage years, when the time was blooming, if you went down Water Street, you'd have to get off the sidewalk if you were going down. There would be so many on the sidewalk
Wow.
that if you were coming up, you'd have to go on the street to walk up.
Did you ever go to the bowling alley?
We had a bowling alley, but I never went.
We'll probably have horse language there.
What do you mean?
I think somebody should write a history of the bowling alley.
Oh, yeah, there was a bowling alley in town.
Yes.
That's right. Horse language.
What about the jail?
Pool table, a pool room in the bowling alley.
Yep. How do you know?
What about did they have a jail way back then? Because the building's over there.
Yeah, but I don't think they ever used it. The jail. John McCurdy. If they met a drunk on the street, they'd take him home.
Oh, wow.
They would. They'd take him home.
Grammy, was there much crime back then?
Left your doors open, left things out in the yard, nobody touched them,
Yep. I remember that.
So much respect.
never locked your
Me
door.
too.
No.
So other people that have spoken, they always talk about when the fires started, when some of the factories burned. Did you live near any of the fires that happened, and did you have to?
Did you live near any of the factories that when they burnt?
No.
Good.
Her house was, do you know where the Temple Church is and the big white?
Yeah.
Eureka Street is right
Right.
there.
Okay. So
You just went down that hill and she lived down in there.
Huh.
But Seaboard
But-
burned, didn't it?
Seaboard Factory burnt in 60.
62, I think.
Yeah,
You had
probably.
the book. I've got it out in the car.
You got it in the car?
It is out in the car, yes.
Well,
I thought
the
it was-
medical center started in the
That was in the
60s.
70s.
70s.
71.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked there then.
Late.
Oh.
Do you remember anything about the tidal power project?
Do you remember anything about the tidal power project?
Yeah.
Harold,
Really?
Harold wants to know.
Tell us something about that.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the Quaddy Dam project?
Well, a lot of the people used to come over here and go roller skating.
Why didn't they finish what they were doing?
On account of the government,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
didn't pass it. Roosevelt wanted more money and they wouldn't give it. And when they come up, so they quit. They connected the two islands. And they built Quaddy Village. And they connected the two islands. And they were going to connect Treats Island to Lubeck on the Webbooth, up above Booth.
Yep.
That's why they were going to connect it. But the government wouldn't give them the money. And that was in 1934 or 5.
Another question, what about radio?
A battery radio.
Did you listen to it every day?
Not every day, no. When the news come on, my father had the radio. After the news, we could listen to a program called Stella Dallas. You girls could listen to that. And when it come news time, we didn't go near it. We had it.
Do you know where the,
And we listened to the news during the war.
do you know where the transmission came out of? Did it come out of like Bangor or was it from St. John?
No, I don't. But when they first had television here, it came out of St. John.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then it came to Bangor. And we had a radio.
What were some of your other favorite radio programs? You liked Stella Dallas. What other radio programs did you
Oh,
like?
that's the only one I liked,
Oh,
so I
really?
didn't listen to the others.
She'd rather read or get
I
in
was
trouble.
reading. I was reading.
What were your
I
favorite
love to
books?
read.
What were your favorite books?
Nancy Drew. Now, I read a lot. I spent most of my other sisters didn't attend school. I was the only one. And my oldest brother he attended high school. But the others, of course, 3 of them passed away when they were young. And, but I love to read. So I read books, pastime, a lot.
And she still does love to read.
Any more questions? Okay. I can't think of anything else.
I just want to say what an honor it's been to have you with us today.
She said it's an honor that you've been here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I wish all of you people would have had the opportunity to live then in Lubeck because it was such a wonderful town.
And she probably knew everybody, and if you
I
asked her about
knew-
somebody,
I
she
knew
could tell you.
Everybody knew me. I worked in Morshi's store. I worked for the A&P, and I worked for Malcolm Dodge,
Oh, wow.
Dodge store. I worked in those stores.
Did you know
So-
Johnny Morrison?
Johnny Morrison. I didn't work in this store, but I used to go there.
She used to walk from Southleback, our house, to work at Dodger's store. Unless somebody would pick her up.
Oh,
I worked. When I worked out A&P. And
Southleback was a great neighborhood back then.
it was a wonderful town.
that's why they kept them.
Wonderful.
It was, Southleback was great.
And one night, I'm not going to mention names, but I was getting through work at Dodger's store in Malcolm's, and this guy offered me a ride. And I said, no, thank you. I got somebody waiting for me. He left. Guess what I did?
Walked home? You didn't have anybody waiting for you.
I walked home.
That's right.
I did too when I was 5 years old from school.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because my best friend, Stephen Green, didn't come to school that day, and I got upset, and I walked out of the building and walked home to
Yeah,
Southleback.
she did.
I'd like to all of us to give them a round of applause. In honor of spring, since you brought the sunshine with you today,
Oh, look,
Some
I'm your
flower for
favorite
you to
color.
Oh, thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
thank you all for coming today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Good luck.